Is there actually a scenario where the Big 12 gets 3 teams in the college football playoff? Somehow, yes. This is a bonus episode of Locked On Big 12.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday night, everybody. Welcome into Locked On Big 12, a bonus episode. I'm Drake Toll from America's #1 Big 12 podcast, Locked On Big 12. Thank you for making this show your first listen every single day, and in this case, maybe your last listen as well. I join ESPN Central Texas in Waco every week to talk the entire whip around across the Big 12 Conference, from coach firings to coach rumors and who will get into the college football playoff, and review of last week and a preview of this coming week. And, I thought, why not record that and allow you to have it as a bonus episode of Locked On Big 12. So here I am with a bonus episode of Locked On Big 12. Ward, Jacob, the crew at ESPN Central Texas. What did it sound like when we talked today? Ward, happy Monday. I don't know who that guy is who's doing those commercials about dropping the toys off in the back of that truck, but he sounds like he's hot. I mean, that guy's got it going on.
Drake along with us. All right, biggest surprise in the Big 12 on Saturday.
Yeah, I think the biggest surprise would certainly have to be Utah winning the game against Kansas State. And not the fact that they won, but the way that they did it. Because there was a point with 2.5 minutes to go, you're looking at them being down by 10 and saying, hey, at 3rd and 22, there's not really a way Utah comes back. And this is a disaster scenario for a Big 12 conference that needs Utah to continue to win games to help boost the resume of other teams, and then maybe boost their resume themselves enough to have a shot, at least a shot, at an at-large bid in the college football playoff if enough teams above them lose. So there were certainly surprises this week in the Big 12, but I would say no bigger than what Utah was able to do in the way that they came back against Kansas State. And honestly, Ward, that result saved the Big 12 in a couple of ways, again, based on strength of schedule for other teams and maybe an outside shot at getting Utah in. But then again, like I said, a couple of surprises with TCU going on the road to beat Houston, the way that Iowa State handled Kansas. You really thought Baylor was squarely in the game against Arizona until within a span of 4 minutes, everything collapsed. This was another fun Saturday across the conference.
Man, what's with Arizona State? They lose their starting quarterback and they just keep on winning, right? And it looks like they have a chance to win out for the rest of the season, go on a 4-game win streak to finish the season if they take care of business against Arizona. But, still nationally ranked. It looked like they're keep on grooving, keep on moving along.
Yeah, that's an incredible question, Jacob, because that's everybody's question, is how in the world did Arizona State recover from losing Sam Levin? And Jordan Tyson, their best wide receiver, has not been healthy for a large portion of this year as well. And what they've done is relied on the strength of their defense and their uncanny ability to win when the game matters most. These last 3 games on the road against Iowa State, their defense holds the Cyclones in Ames to 19 points. West Virginia finally found it with their 5th-string quarterback, Scotty Fox Jr. They're held to 23 points in a game where Jeff Sims, the new quarterback for Arizona State, has to step up big late when it matters. Then Colorado, 17 points allowed, and the run game finally clicked. Not to say it hasn't been good at different portions of this season. It has, but Raleek Brown getting it done on the ground was stunning. 255 yards against a Buffs defense that's just not good against the run. Arizona State has proven that with a coach like Kenny Dillingham, especially an alumni of the university and a guy who eats, sleeps, breathes Sun Devils, with a guy who's like that and has the old ball coach mentality, you're in any game you play. And they're the same team that beat Texas Tech earlier this year because of how good that defense is. They are in any game that they play in this season because Kenny Dillingham is the right fit there. He has coached those guys to be as tough as nails. I really like what Arizona State has done. It's shown that next year they've got as good a shot as anybody to win the Big 12 championship.
Drake, am I wrong about how down I am about the Baylor football program? Best case scenario, they limp to 6-6 and a minor bowl game. Worst case scenario, complete disaster of a season where you don't even make a bowl game when you had aspirations to compete for a conference title and possibly make the playoffs. Never came close to either one of those. Then you're bringing Aranda back next year We have a great recruiting class coming in, but how many of those guys are going to stay on campus which is, I think, is a super distinct possibility if they can win like 2 games next year. That schedule is brutal, and there's just been nothing this year, and I mean nothing, to give me any positive hope for Coach Aranda to be able to turn it around next year.
Yeah, you lose most of the offense, and that was the best thing you had. Even if you do return half the defense, there was a defense that was second to Oklahoma State at being the worst defense in the Power Four. And so I'll start here. The people who are telling you that this is too challenging of a coaching search and that Florida and LSU are searching the market and that Virginia Tech was out there and Penn State's looking for their guy and Baylor can't compete with those. It must be understood Baylor is not in the same stratosphere as far as coaching searches when it comes to LSU and Florida. They're not calling the same candidates. Florida has never heard of Eric Morris at North Texas. Instead, he is the kind of guy that could walk into Baylor and rejuvenate a program. Conversely, if you look at the openings right now, that means that some pretty high-level winners have been fired from jobs that just didn't work out for them. I think that Mike Gundy, the good old ball coach, with a second wind, could go somewhere and succeed. I think guys like Gary Patterson or Jimbo Fisher, who have been on the national stage in the top 5 toward national championships, that they probably still have something left in the tank, a little something at the very least that could rejuvenate a Baylor. And that's what I think the program needed, was to move on from Dave Aranda, go find a guy who's mid-60s and could work for 5 years like Willie Fritz is doing at Houston to build things back. A proven winner who may have been fired from his last job because they couldn't keep up with NIL or the GM circuit. I had a conversation with Gary Patterson a couple of weeks ago, and I said, Coach, the end of your TCU tenure, can you pinpoint just where it went wrong? What fell apart? He said, what's funny is the day he lost his job and they hired the new guy, they went from 1 full-time strength and conditioning coach to 5 full-time strength and conditioning coaches. So that's what this is for a lot of these coaches who have been fired. They didn't have the infrastructure, and everybody from the fan base to the donors wanted a new shiny toy to come coach the football team. Baylor would have been competitive amongst a lot of those names. And then the flip side of this, and after the loss to Arizona, it looks even sillier for the president, Linda Livingstone, to come out and say that, hey, we're keeping Dave Aranda, and then in the same sentence say that Baylor expects excellence. Well, you haven't had none of that. Accountability, not a lot of that. The athletic director putting his hands on the kids, the offensive line coach stepping down. Competitiveness, you certainly have not been competitive at the highest level, like she mentioned. And then Dr. Livingstone said, we are not complacent and we are not settling for mediocrity. Last I heard, Aaron, if you're keeping the same coach who cannot win, that sounds like complacency. And that coach has been pretty mediocre. You know what I do like is Wayfair. Every style, every home. Even homes like the beautiful one behind me with this. This is rustic, man. There's something going on here that I like. If you're listening on audio, you're going to want to see this. Holiday season's right around the corner. It means it's time to get your home ready. Whether you need more seating for guests, cozy new linens, or fun serveware for holiday hosting, Wayfair's Black Friday sale is basically the entire month of November. So the best part is you don't have to wait. Wayfair's Black Friday deals are happening right now, all month long, 70% off everything from sofas to spatulas. Don't miss out on early Black Friday deals. Head to Wayfair.com. Yep, head to Wayfair.com now to shop Wayfair's Black Friday sale for up to 70% off. Wayfair.com. Sale ends December 7th. That is Wayfair. Every style, every home with Wayfair.
When you look at the games coming up this weekend, and I think certainly Baylor and Houston is one of those games because they're trying to get bowl eligible and save the season, but is there another game, or is that the game that you've got circled for Friday and Saturday that really piques your interest?
Here's what's super important about where the Big 12 can go this weekend, and this is tinfoil hat scenario. If at the top of college football, Oregon loses to Washington, which I think is very possible this week in a rivalry matchup, or if Auburn sneaks up on Alabama, and on the road, we know that game is always funky and weird. It took Alabama converting a 4th and 20 a couple of seasons ago to beat a hapless Auburn team. Let's say Bama loses or Oregon loses. The Big 12's in this weird scenario. And here's that scenario. If Arizona State is to fall to Arizona, if BYU, Ward, is to lose, yes, to UCF, Utah goes on to win their game this week against Kansas, and Texas Tech beats West Virginia. This would create a scenario where Texas Tech sits as the number 5 team in the country. Utah gets to move up a few spots because the 3 teams in front of them all lost, so they'd be around number 9 in America, and BYU is sitting at 15, 16 in the country. But the Big 12 championship will be between BYU and Texas Tech. And by rule, if BYU wins that game, the Big 12 will get the Cougars into the playoff. Remember, Utah's sitting at number 9, so they've bought an at-large bid. Texas Tech cannot drop below Utah because they beat the Utes by 1,000,000 points. There is still something on the table that gives the Big 12 an opportunity for 3 teams in the college football playoff. Now, it's a dream scenario. It takes a lot, but Brett Yormark right now is in his war room praying, hoping that this is what the Big 12 runs into to have more representation to help win a national championship. Now, will it happen? Of course not, but it's on the table, and that's why games like Utah and Kansas are so important. Arizona State could keep a ranked win up there for a couple of these Big 12 teams. I think Texas Tech they're 24-point favorites, but on the road against a West Virginia team that's looked better, that team's going to compete. I know they're going to compete. Baylor fighting for bowl eligibility. If they don't get it, it looks even crazier what they've done to keep Dave Aranda. I'm looking at a game like BYU and UCF where the Cougars are favored by 19, and that feels like too many. Or TCU and Cincinnati, 2 teams that have been in an odd trajectory the last few weeks toward the end of the year. As much as I'd love to pinpoint one game, Ward, this is as juicy a slate as you could draw it up for the Big 12 Conference.
Yeah, and talking about BYU, how do you like their chances to possibly win the Big 12 championship? I mean, as a lot of people can probably imagine, Texas Tech is probably the favorite. Yeah. But, looking at what BYU did last week, getting that win against Cincinnati. And how about their rushing game, too? LJ Martin, 222 yards on the ground with 2 TDs.
Yeah, one of the top 10 performances for running back in BYU history is really good. I want to go back to that Texas Tech game. You will look at the box score, look at the final score, and say that Texas Tech blew out BYU, and they did. That's the right moniker to use for this. But then some people will tell you that, it could have easily been 46-7, and it just as easily could have been 21-17. BYU, from multiple uncharacteristic turnovers to muffed punts, just played their worst football game possible, and at the same time forced Texas Tech into 5 field goals. The defense of BYU in the red zone is going to give them an opportunity in any game this season. If they were to play again today, I think Texas Tech still wins, and they're probably 10, 13-point favorites in that game. Is there a chance? Of course there is. Reason being, for BYU, their run game has gotten better and better each week, and they proved after the Tech loss with the way they beat TCU, the way they won by double digits against Cincinnati, that there's still some oomph, some gas in that tank, and they saw what Texas Tech is. They saw what a national championship caliber team is, and they said, if we're going to be that, here's how we have to play. And again, you'll have to remember that game was 13-0 at halftime. BYU is 1 muffed punt away from at least having a shot against Tech. Do the Red Raiders have a leg up? Do they likely win that game? No doubt. But is there a chance for BYU? I think there's a bigger chance than most people expect. Hey, today's show is brought to you by GameTime. Is it Mamacita? Donde está Santa Claus? Santa? Papacita? It's one of those. Whatever it is, GameTime is your place for college football tickets. College football is back. Yeah. College football is back, man. It's here. Finally. And I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's nothing like it. I pull up GameTime app. Now I use GameTime to get my tickets for all these games. A couple of taps. You can watch the Baylor Bears play for almost free. Like really, really close to free. See amazing deals. Talking about your favorite college football teams for as low as $25. The app makes it super simple. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. That's like 7 Baylor tickets. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download GameTime. Do it today. GameTime.
Drake Toll, Locked On Big 12, with us here in the press box on this Monday. And Drake, looking at the Big 12 and who is going bowling so far, only 4 teams right now are in that situation, but there's several that have the opportunity to really make a run. And, well, excuse me, not 4, 6 teams right now are bowl eligible, but a couple of teams sitting on the outside can still get there this weekend with a win. How many do you really think get into bowl contention after this weekend?
Yeah, Ward, it is interesting to watch from the Big 12, like TCU and Cincinnati still in that conversation despite the way their seasons have gone. Iowa State will get an opportunity to play in a bowl game. I see what you're looking at there. I'm looking at the Big 12 standings right now, and there are 4 Big 12 teams with 6 wins alone in conference play. And those are the teams that are certainly at the top and contending. For a second, I was like, wait, Ward's right. There are only 4 bowl teams, but I see the exact number that you're hitting on. And if you expand that list, the Big 12 is a deep conference, a very deep conference. What kind of happened this year were the top 8-9 teams in the league just beat the absolute mess out of the bottom 8 teams in this conference, bottom 7 or 8 teams. And it's more important to have, TCU can still win 9 games. Iowa State can still win 9 games. Cincinnati can win 9 games. And the like goes for Houston, who could win 10. It's more important to have 9 and 10 win teams than it is to have 6-6 Kansas go to the Armed Forces Bowl and finish 7-6, or 6-7 playing a team like Air Force. This league, it is imperative this league has more schools that say, look, I have 9 wins and Utah beat me. I have 9 wins and Texas Tech beat me by 24 points. It makes Utah or Texas Tech or BYU look better at the top of the league. I think right now, Brett Yormark is more focused on this conference being top heavy than he is the number 10 team in the league getting to go to the Bahamas Aloha Good to See You Bowl. I mean, those just don't give you near as much as they did even 10 years ago when coaches could utilize them as recruiting tools or tools for extra weeks of practice. In this era of college football, half your players have already left by then anyway.
Drake, looking at the Big 12 from top to bottom, if there was one team that you could circle and say was the most improved or the biggest surprise for you this season, who would that be?
Interestingly enough, I had Houston finishing at 8-4 this year, and they'll finish at either 8-4 or 9-3. I believed in Willie Fritz in the defense, so I wasn't totally surprised by their turnaround. I was floored by Arizona. They've won 4 games in a row now. They sit at 5-3 in Big 12 play, 8-3 overall. I fully expected 2-10 was a legitimate possibility for Brent Brennan and company. I was not reinvigorated by his comments at Big 12 Media Day. It just felt like he was a dead man walking in only year number 2 as the head coach of the Wildcats. And instead, he has walked through the doors in this second campaign and been revolutionary for a program that was so bad for so long. Jedd Fisch comes in. The second they start winning, Jedd Fisch leaves, and they replace the young, quick legend. I guess not young, but the short-lived legend Jedd Fisch with a guy that most of the fan base thought was rushed. They didn't like his resume. He was a San Jose State guy, and it didn't think it was going to work. And then they start 3-0, a win against Kansas State that was stunning to most of us, that didn't even count for a Big 12 game, only to lose to Iowa State 39-14. You think they're down and out, but no, they have finished the year incredibly. They almost beat BYU at home, and this stretch they're on right now has been awesome. I mean, a couple blowout wins against Colorado and Baylor, I should say. A win against Cincinnati on the road. Arizona is the biggest shock, the most improved team. Very impressed with what they're doing in Tucson.
Drake Toll, Locked On Big 12, with us in the press box here on ESPN Central Texas. Drake, always appreciate the time very much. Have a happy Thanksgiving, and we'll talk to you next Monday.
Happy Thanksgiving, Ward. Always fun. And again, if you run into that guy who's telling people to put toys in the back of the truck, you just shake his hand for me. He sounds like a good dude.
All right, there he goes, Drake Toll, here on the press box on ESPN Central Texas.
All right. Wasn't that fun? So the joke is I do their commercial. I voiced over their commercial for the Toys for Tots campaign. Uh-huh. That's your Easter egg. That's your bonus episode. This has been and always will be Locked On. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day. Dose Grande.